Have you ever felt that the weight of perfection, this constant drive to be flawless, is quietly destroying you? What once seemed like a beacon of success, a virtue, is now an invisible prisoner, silent demand that never fades. You're always a step ahead, trying to do everything right. But what happens when the effort becomes heavier than the reward? You look into a mirror and see all the things you've done right, yet you still feel an emptiness. No matter how hard you try to fit into that perfect mold of who you should be, you never feel like you're truly there at peace with yourself. The paradox is simple. What once was your strength is now suffocating you. You fight so hard to please, to fit in, to be the best you can be, but in the process, you lose yourself. What you thought was the key to success is now the key to your dissatisfaction. This is the central dilemma, the silent pain of those who strive for perfection, yet end up distancing themselves from who they really are. The pursuit of perfection is more than a simple ambition. It is a coping mechanism, a way of dealing with emotional wounds from the past. The desire to be perfect often comes from a very deep place on early childhood, in which love and acceptance were conditioned upon performance. Let's begin with the concept of parentification. This happens when, from a young age, the child takes on emotional responsibilities that aren't theirs, trying to fix what isn't right in their world. They begin to believe that to be loved, they must be flawless, care for others, and keep everything under control. This subtle process of assuming adult roles prevents the development of a healthy, independent identity, leaving them vulnerable to relentless self-criticism. This behavior is strongly related to hypervigilance, a constant state of alertness in which the person is always scanning for the expectations of others, trying to anticipate mistakes or failures. The fear of judgment or rejection creates a vicious cycle, where perfection becomes a shield against emotional pain. Additionally, many of these patterns are connected to avoidant attachment, an emotional bonding style characterized by difficulty accepting vulnerability. The pursuit of perfection, then, becomes a way to avoid confronting one's own weaknesses and the pain of rejection. Every mistake, no matter how small, is perceived as an existential threat. And in this cycle, the search for perfection transforms into an emotional prison. What's at stake here is not just dissatisfaction with life, but the constant, invisible loss of something essential: authenticity. As Rainer Maria Rilke once said, "The task is to live the life we have before us, not the life we think we should have." But when perfection is your only guide, how can you truly live if you're always trying to fit into something that's not you? The emotional cost of this relentless pursuit is profound. The fear of making a mistake, the fear of judgment, the fear of abandonment, these become shadows that haunt every interaction, every step you take in life. You try to control everything around you, but ultimately, you can't control yourself. The distrust of your own choices translates into an anxiety that never disappears. Seneca, in his philosophical meditations, also described the emptiness of the constant chase for external approval. The man who chases after a perfect life will never find peace. The desire for perfection creates an invisible mourning, a constant pain that, no matter how much you hide it, is always there, draining your energy and your happiness. Over time, these childhood patterns of perfection manifest in visible ways in adulthood. What began as a coping strategy, a way to deal with chaos, becomes behaviors that now govern life. They become adults who struggle with setting boundaries. They don't know where they end and where others begin. Their relationships are marked by an incessant need to please, to seek external validation. This also plays out in their careers, where the fear of failure may paralyze them, or drive them to work tirelessly without ever finding fulfillment. In terms of self-esteem, These people feel in constant comparison, as if they're always behind others, always trying to achieve something unattainable. The fear of failure stops them from taking risks or exploring new opportunities. Emotional regulation is affected because the fear of feeling negative emotions is so overwhelming that they either ignore or suppress them, leading to a profound emotional drain. But there's good news. This process can be unlearned. Awareness is the first step. By beginning to observe these behaviors instead of self-criticizing, you start to realize that these patterns are merely automatic responses to unhealed wounds. The first step toward healing is accepting that perfection isn't necessary. It's not about fighting these behaviors, but beginning to notice when they show up. The healing for those who strive for perfection begins with reparenting the inner child. It's about going back to that moment when perfection first became the way to feel loved. Through reparenting, you learn to care for yourself in the way you wish you had been cared for without demanding perfection, just acceptance. Another crucial method is shadow work, a technique developed by Carl Jung. The shadow represents those parts of ourselves that we reject, those that don't fit the idealized image we have of ourselves. By accepting and integrating these parts, you come to realize that true perfection isn't in achieving some ideal version of yourself, being fully yourself, with all your flaws and virtues. Moreover, regulating the nervous system is essential to calm the mind and body. The body often holds the tension of the perfection you carry, and learning to relax, to breathe deeply, brings a sense of liberation. As Jung said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." The goal is not to be fixed, but to become whole. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be complete. Now, take a deep breath. Embrace who you are, and share this video with someone who also needs to hear this. Perfection isn't about pleasing others, it's about allowing yourself to be human.